You never really expect life to place you in situations that blur the lines between right and wrong, between duty and desire, between the love you give and the love you receive. But what if one day, the person you thought you had raised, the one who grew up under your roof, revealed something to you that made your heart beat in a way you hadn't felt in years? What if that revelation wasn't something reckless or immature, but something steady, real, and undeniable? Would you shut it down out of fear, or would you let yourself be seen for the first time? That's exactly what happened to me. And it all began on a quiet rooftop one night, with a simple question from my nephew, Ethan. Ethan wasn't my nephew by blood. When my sister passed away suddenly, he was only 9 years old, with nowhere else to go. I was 28 at the time, still finding my own way through life, but in that moment I didn't think twice. I took him in. He became my responsibility, my little shadow, the reason I woke up every morning and kept moving forward even when life felt unbearable. I raised him, helped with homework, showed up for his school plays, and comforted him through nightmares. We built something together that was more than family. It was survival, but also companionship. Years passed, and Ethan grew into a man right before my eyes. By the time he was 24, he was no longer the boy clutching my hand on the first day of middle school. He was tall, strong, thoughtful, his jaw sharper, his voice deeper, and his presence heavier in the room. I still called him my nephew, but there were times when I caught myself noticing the way women looked at him when we walked into a cafe, or the way his smile carried this quiet confidence that didn't belong to a boy anymore. And yet, to me, he was still Ethan, the boy I had raised. Or, at least, that's what I told myself until that night. We had a tradition. On weekends, when the city lights stretched across the skyline, we would sit on the rooftop with tea and blankets, just talking about everything and nothing. That night felt no different, until it did. The silence between us wasn't just silence anymore. It was heavy, charged, like something unsaid had been lingering too long. Ethan looked at me, his voice low and careful. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," I said, though my heart had already started racing for reasons I couldn't explain. He hesitated, his fingers fidgeting with the edge of the blanket around our shoulders. Then he whispered, "If there was one thing in the world you could have, no matter how impossible, no matter what anyone thought, would you go after it?" I let out a nervous laugh, trying to lighten the mood. "That depends. How impossible are we talking here?" He smiled, but his eyes didn't match the smile. They held something deeper, something heavier. He looked down again, then finally said, "I've had a wish for a long time. I never thought I'd say it out loud. But it's you." For a moment, the city noise vanished. The only sound I could hear was my own heartbeat, thundering in my chest. I stared at him, and for the first time, I didn't just see the boy I raised. I saw the man he had become. His sharp jawline, his steady gaze, the way his hand brushed a strand of hair behind my ear. It was the smallest gesture, one he had done before, but this time it landed differently, like a puzzle piece finally falling into place after years of trying.
I didn't respond that night.
I couldn't. I lay awake in bed for hours, replaying the moment, hearing his voice again and again. "It's you." Those words weren't impulsive. They weren't reckless. They were full of truth. The days that followed were filled with silence, but not the usual kind. Every look, every touch, every small interaction felt charged with something unspoken. It was like a secret living between us. I began noticing things I had ignored before. The way Ethan always knew when I was tired, the way he made my coffee exactly how I liked it, the way his face lit up when I laughed at something no one else understood. Then one morning, I found his notebook on the table. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. Inside were poems, fragments of thoughts, letters he'd written but never sent.
And all of them were about me.
Not in a way that was obsessive or careless, but gentle, reverent, full of admiration. He wrote about my laugh, about my strength, about the way I carried burdens without letting anyone see. He noticed everything I thought no one noticed. That evening, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I asked him directly, "Ethan, what is your wish? Tell me."
He didn't hesitate this time. His voice was steady.
My wish is to be the one who takes care of you. You've spent your whole life putting everyone else first, even me. You saved me when I didn't even realize I needed saving. And now all I want is to give that back to you. To make you feel seen, safe, and loved. I wish it could be me. I was silent, but inside, something shifted. It wasn't about labels or expectations. It wasn't scandal or confusion. It was love, steady, patient, and undeniable. For years, he had been the one constant in my life, and I realized he had been giving me pieces of his heart all along. For the first time in a long time, I let myself imagine saying yes. And slowly I did. Not with big declarations or dramatic scenes, but in the small ways that mattered. I let him cook dinner for me, without feeling guilty. I let his hand find mine, and didn't pull away. I laughed freely, without apologizing. I allowed myself to be cared for. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't forced. It was calm, certain, and real. One evening, he left a letter on my desk. Not a confession, but a list of wishes. Wishes for me. That I'd stop hiding myself in places I didn't belong. That I'd finally write the book I'd been too afraid to start. That I'd laugh more. That I'd stop apologizing for being complicated. And at the bottom, the words that made my chest ache. I wish you'd let someone love you. And I wish that someone was me. Tears filled my eyes because he had seen the parts of me no one else did. The exhaustion behind my smile, the loneliness I carried, the quiet dreams I never spoke aloud. He didn't try to fix me.
He just wanted to stand beside me. So I said yes.
Not out loud, but in all the ways that mattered. In the way I looked at him differently. In the way I let myself lean into his presence. In the way I stopped fighting what had been there all along. Some people might not understand. They might call it wrong, scandalous, or confusing. But they didn't live in our world. They didn't know what it meant to find home in someone who had seen every part of you and still chose to stay. Ethan had a wish.
And I said yes.
Not because I was lonely or weak, but because I finally saw what he saw, a love that wasn't destructive or forbidden, but healing, patient, and ours. Love doesn't always arrive in the form you expect. Sometimes it grows quietly, waiting for the day you're ready to see it. And when you finally do, it feels like coming home.